Hey everybody, I'm back. Sorry about that. I'm gonna turn the camera a little bit. Apparently I have a bad Wi-Fi connection, and that happens to me here in my house quite a bit. So raise your hands if you can see me and hear me live. And I apologize if there is an issue. Yay, I think we've got some people on. So you can see me and hear me okay? Raise your hands and say you can hear me. We had a little technical difficulty before. Hey, Sue, how are you? Anyway, hey, Nedra, I'll see you in a little while. So today is kind of an interesting day for me because I've been working really hard in my studio, and I really wish I could show you what I've been working on, but I can't. You know, it's that super secret stuff that you get to see later on. Anyway, so today though, I'm gonna show you what my favorite things are in my studio. Some of the things that I wish I could show you, it's just hard to do it if I don't want to give you guys motion sickness by carrying the camera around. So I gathered some of the things that I use every day, and I wanted to show you what my favorite things are, and I would love to hear what your favorite things are too. And I'll tell you why some of these things that are in front of me are my favorite things. I'm sure some of you will probably agree with what I have too. So let's start. One of my favorite things, hey Laura, how are you? One of my favorite things is, yep, a trusty old calculator. Because you know, when you're designing patterns and working with fabric, this is always out, and I'm always using it. Whether it's this one or the one on my phone, but it's an essential necessity to have in any quilting studio. So if you're having a problem with a pattern or whatever, you can go ahead and figure out the math yourself. And trust me, I am not a math person. My husband is. That's what he has, 2 degrees in math, and he always says, I don't understand how you can't be a math person. You work with fabric and yardages and all that stuff. And I said, oh, well, that's like not real math. I said, that's fun for me. So I always have the calculator around to help me out because, let's face it, I need it. So that's one of my favorite things. Another one of my favorite things, could you have guessed it? It's my rotary cutter. It is a 60mm cutter. That is what I use, and it is the ergonomic one, and it shuts. I love this one because it's an Olfa, but when you squeeze it, it opens. When you let go of it, it closes. So you never are really left with it open, which is so important. There is this super duper little red button here that will lock it in place. So now if I press that handle, it does not open. You can see that, right? And then if I press that button here and I want to keep it open, I can press it again. Whoops, hang on. Press it again. Oh, no, it won't lock in place, I guess. So it won't lock open, but it'll lock closed. So that if somebody picks it up, they won't get cut, okay? So that, of course, is my second because I needed to cut all the fabric for patterns, etc. Another one of my favorite little things here is from my friends at Sunflower Quilts. It's a little chain piecer ripper thingy to get your chain. I don't know how you said chain piecer. You know what I'm talking about. It's got a little blade in there, and when you're doing your chain piecing, you just cut the threads in between each piece that you've chain pieced. This, I have one near my sewing machine, and then I have one here on my cutting mat. Obviously, my cutting mat is super duper essential. It's sitting right in front of me. I'm not going to pick it up and show you, but it's sitting right in front of me. That is a super essential, one of my favorite things in the room. Another one of my favorite things is my tea. Really not. I do love tea, and I am a tea drinker for all of those who know me. Oh, great, Denise, thank you. For all of those you know me, I have a little tin which I keep my favorite pins in, okay? So I'll show you my favorite pins. These are my Clover fine pins. Yep, I have them on the website, so I can put the link afterwards. But the reason I love these is they're super long and super fine, and when you take a class from me, you learn how to use them properly. But fine pins are way, way better than the thick pins, because thick pins cause a lot of distortion. So then, of course, if you have pins and needles, you need some of the most awesome thread that is made, right? Aurifil thread. So these are my two go-tos when I'm piecing, okay? This one here, which is 2600. These, by the way, the orange is 50 weight. So I piece with 50 weight thread, and you'll hear me step on my soapbox when I'm teaching about what weight of thread to use. 50 weight's like the perfect. And then this one is 2000. And I do sell this on the website, but I have a little box of neutrals that you can get. But this is my favorite thread by far. I am an Aurifil designer and an Aurifilosopher, and I have two other threads that I'm going to show you too in a minute. But these are my favorite for piecing. So look for the orange one is what you want. That's 50 weight, okay? Of course, when I'm piecing, guess what else is my most favorite thing? My 1/4 inch foot. I cannot live without my 1/4 inch foot for my machine. Now, a lot of people say, oh, I move my needle over to the 1/4 inch. I don't do that for a lot of reasons, because I like to work with a single hole throat plate. If you move your needle over, you have to have that zigzag plate in. And because you're doing straight stitching, you don't really need that zigzag plate in. If you've ever had like fabric when you're starting off kind of get dragged down into your throat plate, it's more than likely because you have a zigzag plate in. That's why you need a 1/4 inch foot, because you could put that straight, the single hole throat plate in and use your 1/4 inch foot. You just have to learn how to use that 1/4 inch foot for the accuracy. And if you're doing it already by using the edge of your foot when you move the needle over, you've got this. You've got it. Get a 1/4 inch foot and use it. I prefer the one without the guide, because that's just what I've been used to for the past 25 years or so. And I love it. I think the guide sometimes can hinder or make it a little wider than a 1/4 inch. So this is my go-to foot. So my Vikings, these all use this. They're snap-on. It's a snap-on foot, but that's my 1/4 inch. So I do not sew without this. You know how they say, do not leave home without it. I do not ever leave home without this if I'm taking my machine somewhere. Okay, so then one of my other things, which I love, 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 is Marty Michelle's Deluxe Corner Trimmer and Hand Piecing Aid. This is great because it has all different angles on it, and I show you how to use it in a lot of my classes, especially for those 60-degree triangles. It will also help you with Y-seams. It's fabulous, and I'll put a link for this too, but I carry this in my little toolkit everywhere I go. I love this. Love it. Love it. In keeping with the threads, I've got two collections right now that are like my fave, and I do have them. And you know, this is from my book. These match all the colors of the fabrics in my book. So it's Splash of Color, and you'll see they're the little orange cones, so they're 50 weight. So this little box is one of my favorites because I love brights and blacks and whites. So that's one of my favorites in my studio now too, and I'll put a link for that. This one here is one, so it's a little different because it's actually floss. It's Aurifloss. And this launched just recently with my Feline Find collection, and it matches them perfectly. And I showed, I think a couple weeks ago, a little project that I had done with the Aurifloss. So it is, if you like embroidering, hand embroidery, these are great, and they're on the little wooden spools. So those are two of my favorite threads at the moment in my studio. I have other boxes that I've designed too, but these currently are my two favorites, okay? Oh, and in keeping with the Splash of Color box, of course, one of my favorite things is my book, because I designed so many quilts in here that I am in love with, and I've taught the classes over and over and over again. But the threads in this box really coordinate well with the quilts in here. And I'll give you a little quick look-see. If you don't have my book, these are some of the projects in it. I know a lot of you have taken classes from me, and I'm going to be teaching a class up in Oregon in a couple weeks, and I hope the snow goes away, because they're getting a lot of snow right now. So I'm teaching my Proud Mary class up there in Oregon in just a couple weeks. So if you're in Oregon, maybe I'll see you. Okay, so a couple of my other favorite things I'm going to go through here. Of course, just a regular old seam ripper. Oh, hey, I'm going to say it, I hope I say it right. Paola Gianni. Hi, Paola from Venice, Italy. I was just talking about Venice, and we want to come to Venice. We love Italy, but I've never been to Venice, so I'm hoping to come your way someday, hopefully within the next few years. But anyway, welcome in. This, of course, is one of my favorite tools, because we are all familiar with the seam ripper. So yes, this does get used and is always sitting out on my cutting mat. So if you don't have one, you need to get one. This is also another one of my favorite tools. I actually did a little video on this. So if you're not familiar with this guy, this is an eyebrow trimmer shaper, okay? But if you do a lot of paper piecing, this has like a little serrated edge there, and it gets out those teeny tiny stitches nice and quickly, whereas it doesn't, the seam ripper doesn't do it quite as much. So I have a YouTube video on how to use this, and I'll put the link above me so you can see. You can get these at any of your local pharmacies or drugstores, Walmart, whatever. Even Amazon has them. And most of the times when I do a class, I usually give these out, paper piecing class, I give these out to my students. So it's a really handy little thing. So I'll put that link up there too. Speaking of paper piecing is one of my favorite things to do. And I use a little sheet of template plastic to fold my papers back onto, and of course the add a quarter ruler. This one's a short little one, but it's wide. I like the wide one, but I have probably 6 or 7 different add a quarter rulers. If you're not familiar with an add a quarter ruler, it has a little lip here, which is exactly a 1/4 inch, and what it does is it holds on to that template plastic once you fold that paper back, so you get an accurate 1/4 inch seam allowance. So those two babies are always with me when I'm doing paper piecing. Then this is one of my favorite things. I use it all the time. If you're not familiar with this, this is a glue pen. Now this one currently has like a light blue glue in it, but it's just a tacky glue. It is water soluble. I show you how to use it in one of my YouTube videos of how you piece a curve. And this, I actually probably have about 4 or 5 of them that I use. This is also available on my website, as are the refills, but it takes the place of pins. So if you're doing something that you don't necessarily want to pin, this is awesome. And the only thing you need to do to get it to go out is use water. Water takes it right out. It's easy peasy, and I love it. So if you have not tried this yet, you can use it for applique, you can use it for binding, you can use it for curve piecing, so many different things. I show you lots and lots of different ways to use it. And I will put the video link for the curved piecing right above me when I'm done. One of my favorite rulers ever is this one, the Creative Grids. It's a 6.5 by 12 inch ruler. It has lots of lines on it that I use. It has a 45-degree angle. It has a 30-degree, and I believe a 60-degree. It also has a 90-degree angles on it, and a 60-degree. Yeah, I'm sorry, I was looking at it from the back, so it's hard to see. So, and it has 60 degrees. So I use all the angles on there, but it seems to be one of the most perfect sizes for me to use when I'm doing really kind of any block. I don't typically do blocks that are larger than 12.5. Most of them are smaller, so this works really well. If I do a nice small one that I need to square up, use something to square up, this one, the 6.5 by 6.5, is my second favorite creative grid. So those are creative grids rulers that I love. And they have the little grippy things, you know, on the back so that your it doesn't slide on your fabric. Oh, and I forgot when I was talking about curved piecing and all, this is another one of my favorite tools. It's called the Purple Thang, T-H-A-N-G, Thang. And it has like multiple uses. The one use that I use it for the most, it's for my curved piecing, and you'll see it in that video when you click on the link and you watch that video. But that little square there, that is, I got an itchy nose, sorry. The little square there, that is actually a perfect 1/4 inch. So if you're ever wondering if you're sewing at a perfect 1/4 inch, you can just measure along. But when we use for curved piecing, we use this little flat edge there. You can use it as a stiletto like this, right? But we're gonna use that little flat edge when we do curved piecing. So you can watch my video and see how I use it for that. Okay, rulers again. So my friend Deb Tucker makes some of the most awesome rulers that are out there on the market. If you're not familiar with Deb Tucker and your rulers, you've got to get familiar with her. In my last quilt along, the Island Breeze quilt along, I demoed how to use her wing clipper. Her wing clipper by far is the one that I use the most. It is the wing clipper. It makes several different sizes of flying geese, up to 10.5 down to 1.5 inch. It is one of my favorite rulers. And the nice thing about her is that in the ruler you get this little guide, and she actually gives you info on what sizes to cut your squares to make the geese. It's fantastic. So if you don't have this, you really need to have this, especially if you're doing my Island Breeze pattern. It really helps trim up those geese super duper fast. Okay, so you can get that on her website, and I'll put a link for that above. I got a lot of links to share with you guys, right? So I showed you the Aurifil collection, right? Because I said it went along with my feline fine fabric. So right now in my studio, the fabric that I am most in love with right now is my fabric line, the Feline Fine, right? So if you haven't seen it yet, it's all cat themed, but it doesn't scream cat themed. So I showed it, I think it was last week's video because it had just come in. So I showed you all the different designs. Like here's one on the top, mice, right? Okay, so there's different mice, and then there's kibble, and there's flowers, and there's more kibble, different colors, mice. But I think my favorite, let me see if I can find it quick. My favorite are the kitty cat faces. So you get kitty cat faces, right? There, and you've got, let's see, where's some of the other kitty cat? Here's a kitty cat face. Okay, I don't know if I'm holding it up right. Anyway, so these are in my studio right now. People are buying them like crazy, which is awesome. I just put up some new fat quarter bundles on my website for the collection, and I have 2 kits available too, and I have yardage. And by the way, the All Flutter yardage is almost all gone. I marked that down to $7 a yard, so if you want some, get it because it's almost gone. But the Feline Fine fabric has been fantastic, and I love it. And it goes with my Aurifil floss. So this is some of my most favorite fabric in my studio. And I have a lot of fabric in my studio right now. My own stash, and then my own designs as well. And I got some that I can't show you because I can't yet. And I'm loving what's here, and I can't wait to show you some of what I'm working on. But in the theme of cats, you know, my most favorite thing in my studio, and one of them is actually here, he's sleeping over there on a tuffet, are my quilt inspectors. Both of them were in here this morning, and they were both watching out the window because we have a gorgeous day here in Arizona. It's like 74 degrees and sunny and gorgeous. And I had the windows open and they were bird watching. So my favorite thing, my most favorite, number one favorite, I should have like a top 10 list, right? Well, this is number one, are my quilt inspectors. And there they are. And I couldn't pick them up to show you, but this is the book that I published with all, it's like a little gifty book, but it has, let me see, I'll kind of flip through. It has beautiful pictures of my cats and quilts with little quotes from them too. So that is available on my website. It's a great little gift. And don't they look just so sweet sitting there? They were testing out a couple of my quilts. So they're my number one favorite in my studio. So why don't you tell me some of your favorite things in your studio that you use on a daily basis for quilting. And it can be anything. It could be your design wall, because that, I'll tell you, is a favorite of mine, trust me. And this long arm behind me, I don't know where I'd be without it. But we all have favorite things, and I would love to know what some of your favorites are. So write in a comment and let me know. Otherwise, that's it for me today, but I will be back next week. And I can't wait to share what's coming up next week. I really don't know, but if you have ideas of things that you might want to see next week, put them in the comment. I'd love to share with you. Anyway, have a great week. Happy quilting to you all, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.